I'm Blumin-Onion, and sorry for not including my wave. We're just jumping right into this sketch. I'm doing fan art for a web series called Ena, produced by the YouTube channel Joel G. This web series is a little old now, about 4 years, but I've seen people do fan art, I've seen people do cosplays, and lots of references. I had even listened to a song that was a remix from some vocals within the show. But when I watched it, I was left confused and just kind of scratching my head because a lot of the story is so nonsensical, and that's the whole point of it. So I think they did a great job, but their goal was to make a show where it felt like you were viewing another world that doesn't function like our own and just kind of seeing these characters live their lives. All of the characters are super likable, and their designs are so interesting, and I was immediately taken back by the main character, Ena. She is divided in half. Half of her face is blue, and half of her face is yellow, and half of her face and body are more geometric, and the other half is more organic. And throughout the series, she struggles with her emotions, and when her emotions get the best of her whole demeanor and look change. So when she's really sad and upset, she will change and her appearance will mimic that, and she will kind of spiral into these negative thoughts. And throughout the show, she kind of learns to cope and not let things get to her or affect her as much, which I find really interesting and really cool that they were able to show that kind of character growth without having a typical story structure. Sorry for the lighting change, and also the angle on this video is a little different than some of my previous ones. I've been trying a couple of different setups and just trying to figure out what I like the most. I did think my blue for her was a little dark at the beginning, which it does look a little dark, but in the end, after I add the black, it makes the blue look a lot lighter, which I think worked out in the end. I ended up just drawing her head because I wasn't 100% sure that I could handle drawing her whole body, but if I do fan art of her in the future, I would like to branch out and try to capture her more and get her whole essence, because this is more like just a still frame of her, and she's such an interesting and dynamic character that you could really do so much with her. Throughout the series, she does little dances and animation sprites that are just so interesting and dynamic, and the fact that both of her arms don't actually connect to her body through a shoulder allow them to kind of fudge the movements and push them more than say a humanoid body would be able to, because there's not that much of a restriction with a shoulder blade and the mass of what connects your arm to your body. She lives in a digital world, I believe, so it's supposed to mimic that of old computer games and old online spaces, and I think that is so cool. And I have some ideas for some fan art of her in the future where I kind of tap into that iconography and push that motif a little more, kind of mixing her world with ours. And I think a lot of fan art does do that because of the fact that her character is so interesting and the world that her story takes place in. I already knew that I wanted to create fan art while I was watching the show, but I didn't want to be that person that didn't finish a show and started to make art for it and then get to the end and be like, wow, I'm really not a fan of this, and now I have this art of something I don't like. So I watched it and I ruminated on it for a little bit, maybe a day or so, before I decided, it was weird, and it definitely confused me at times, and I'm still a little confused about it, but I did enjoy it, and I did like the characters, and the whole team that worked on it was really talented. It is such an interesting piece of media to just look at, and they're even making a video game here soon, which, well, it was announced a year ago, so hopefully it will be released here soon. But it has another character similar to Ena. Well, it's also called Ena, but she's white and red instead of blue and yellow. So I don't know if it's a different character or if it's like a different page in her story. So I'm interested to see what the team creates of that and if they create more episodes or maybe even a movie. Here I am just taking an ink pen and lining the finer lines of her face and kind of just reworking where I added a white line to add some more detail. And then I decided to sketch out her name at the bottom of the page. I felt like I drew her head pretty much in the middle, and her hair did cut down into the bottom of the page, but not enough to really fill it. So I decided to do her name, and I saw some fan art where some people were doing her name and then coloring it in the same way that her face is, where half of it is yellow and half of it is blue. So I thought that that was so interesting and decided that I wanted to try my own take on that, which if I did this again, I might want to do more where like I draw her face line where it's like her nose and then her lip and a smile in the end, but maybe that would need to be bigger or done on digital media because there's only so much room in those little block letters. I used my Sharpie creative markers for basically this whole piece, and then a Sakura white gel pen and a Pen and Gear quick dry black ink pen. These Pen and Gear pens are the ones that I found that work the best on top of acrylic paint markers. Sometimes they still kind of fade out and smudge, but overall I've found that they, as long as you let them dry, they keep a pretty good color consistency and they don't smear, which of course they take a little bit longer to dry on the acrylic than on paper. So I can't be too mad about that. And I'm just outlining the name. I did freehand these letters. I do kind of wish I would have blocked it out a little more to mimic that geometric feel, but you know, what can you do? I've been Blumin-Onion, and I'll smell you later.
Thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. If you want to watch more, check out the videos on screen. And if you can't get enough of me, I'm Blumin-Onion on all other platforms. If you'd like to see your art featured at the end of my video, please send it to me in an email and where you'd like to be credited.